Well, for any of you who was wondering about what happened with the down limb in the backyard here, take a look. It's been sawed up. There are some logs right there, and then there are some tree branches right here with leaves on them. So what happened was, the same day I got back from Rhinelander, my parents were already home before me, and my father got to work and started chainsawing the limb off the tree. But that didn't come without problems. My father's chainsaw, which hadn't been used in a couple of years, was out of oil, and so as a result, the chain was seized. So the chain locked up as he was doing take one of removing the limb. So he added new oil, unseized the chain, and got back to work. It's a Stihl chainsaw, so it's gas powered, obviously. I don't know if electric chainsaws use oil or not. That's mainly because we don't own one. But yeah, this is all that's left of the limb that once reached over to right above my head. I just find it interesting how, a non-severe thunderstorm was able to do this. Destroy the limb, forcing it to have to be removed from the tree. I forget how old this tree is, but even more surprising, this tree over here has a hole in it, and it is still standing. Along with this one over here, although this one is in arguably better shape, but still, this one's already been worked on before. There was a tree here, but if you guys saw my tornado aftermath video from last year, you would know that, the tree got knocked down because of the winds from the tornadic thunderstorm. Thankfully, the tornado came nowhere near the house. But anyway, that happened last year. Thankfully, we have not had a tornado in Kendall County at all this year. Now to move on to the front. Alright, now for a bit of a garage update. But before that, there were some dump trucks here getting the garbage and recyclables. This is trash day. So the first truck that came around was for recyclables, and then the other is trash. As far as the Mercedes goes, just last week or so it was having a problem where the steering wheel would not tilt up or down, but it works fine just now. So what was happening is, as I was moving this joystick down, the solenoid was engaging and then it was disengaging, but you could hear it clicking, and whenever I moved it up, it would do nothing, so it was just stuck all the way up. But after a few tries of moving the joystick down, I finally got it to work. It made a loud clunk when it started to move. I'm guessing that was because it was stuck there for a couple of years in that same position. So that saves me a trip to the dealer. Whoops. Now the Ford, this car had to have a rim repaired because while my family was on the Rhode Island trip, my mom was driving this car and she accidentally curbed this wheel against a rock or a brick. So I took this car to the same place that I took the Mercedes to have its rim repaired when I lost control in the winter and crashed into a curb because the original OEM Pirelli tires on the car were low on tread and I didn't even realize that. Not only that, but the roads were icy too, so all-season tires were a poor choice to begin with. So thankfully that was a quick in and out, and the total bill was $125, so $15 more than what it cost to repair the rim on the Mercedes that I damaged 2 years ago. But prices might have gone up since then, and I still think that's a reasonable price. So, moving onward. As far as the tires, speaking of which, these tires, well, this one, excuse me, the tread is not doing so good. And I say that because, winter is approaching, and this tire has about 6 or 5/32, which is barely acceptable for the winter. So, my dad has a solution to that. We are going to get Michelin Cross Climate 2s. We aren't quite replacing the Pirellis yet, but what we're going to do is we're going to get Cross Climate 2s and use those as winter tires, even though they are all-weather tires, until the Pirellis are worn. So we'll take the Pirellis off in November, put the Michelins on, and then put the Pirellis back on in the spring, and then we'll repeat until the Pirellis are fully worn, and then the Michelins will take over as the full-time tire. I'd say that's a pretty effective solution for somebody who doesn't want to run winter tires on a car, because the Michelin Cross Climate 2 performs better than some winter tires in the snow, but obviously it's unmatched compared to something like a Nokian Hakkapeliitta R3, but definitely a good solution for somebody who doesn't want to run 2 sets of tires. So yes, you can use all-weather tires as winter tires. One advantage being mileage warranty. A lot of winter tires don't have that unless you buy from Michelin. And when we do get the Michelin Cross Climate 2s, I will do a stop test in the same place I did it with the Pirellis. So that way I can compare how this car does on Cross Climate 2s compared to the, in comparison to the original Pirellis. Now, the Mousemobile, I brought this car in for service a day after I came back from the Rhinelander trip to SirenCon, and what happened was they changed the oil as well as the filters, and I got to speak with the general manager of that dealership, and this was because, you might remember, I did an update video a while back reporting on what happened in June, where I tried to test drive a Honda Accord Hybrid and they wouldn't let me. Apparently they thought I was too much of a credit risk, or I was not financially responsible, which is untrue, because if I wanted to, I could pay off half the car, more than half the car right now if I absolutely wanted to, but I'm not going to, because I'd rather have money on hand in case something horribly wrong happens and I need to pay for it, such as an engine or transmission failure. And see, if you guys remember, the part that frustrated me about that the most was that I've test-driven cars with that dealer before, and I didn't come fully prepared. I only brought my driver's license. I did not bother to take my insurance card out of the car, because apparently you need both, your driver's license and insurance. Now, I came prepared back in June because I really wanted to test drive a Honda Accord Hybrid to see if it's something I really wanted, because that was a contender to replace this car. But that test drive never happened, even though I came fully prepared. Driver's license, insurance card. They asked me a few other questions I've never been asked by salespeople before, and that was when I felt I was being interrogated. And I knew something fishy was up, especially considering how long I was waiting for them to return to their chairs and hopefully allow me to test drive, but that didn't happen. So, yeah, that was unfortunate, but, past is the past. I'm moving on. I'm not going to buy a Honda to replace this. I still think they're great vehicles, but I think if I'm going to replace this car, it will be with a Ford Maverick. By the way, Ford Maverick orders are on halt until further notice. And I kind of predicted that this would happen. We are currently in an industry-wide vehicle shortage. And that's the other thing. I didn't realize there was that going on. And that's why, that dealership did not have a Honda Accord Hybrid on the lot for me to test drive. So they didn't have a car on the lot, and they didn't think I was creditworthy enough. So talk about a double whammy. But the general manager appreciated my concern and my report on these two employees, and he disciplined them. So if the general manager of Valley Honda is watching this video, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Because I remember my mother telling me a story about how she hasn't had the best of luck with dealership employees, and then I just told her, well, if you have a problem with a dealership employee, you should do what I did. Ask to speak to the general manager, because I'm sure he or she will greatly appreciate your concern and discipline the employees in question. But anyway, on to the Maverick thing. So I'm going to keep this car for at least another year. I'm going to keep it no longer than 2 more years. So, that makes me wish I would have gotten the Nokian Hakkapeliitta R3s instead of the Continental Viking Contact 7s. Because I got the Viking Contact 7s to replace my Blizzaks, and I chose those over the Nokians because they were $30 cheaper. They still perform decently well, but not as well in the snow as the Blizzaks or the Hakkapeliittas. But yeah, the reason I got those tires is because I was planning to sell this car, but then the vehicle shortage happened. I should have just bought a car last year, because say I decided to keep this car and then sell one of my cars this year, I could have made money off of one. So, yeah, just goes to show you can't predict the future. And it all started with C8 Corvette prices jumping $40,000. Hey, the Stradman sold his. He bought it for $80,000, sold it for $120,000. That's a $40,000 profit. And at first he said he wasn't going to sell the Corvette, and then he did because he wanted to buy a Bugatti. And now he's selling the Bugatti. So go figure. And that's mainly because he can get about $400,000 more for the Bugatti than what he paid for it. But yeah, like I said, this car is here to stay at least for the next year or two. And that's mainly because the demand chain is way out of whack. Like, it's higher than it's ever been for new cars and even used cars. So the demand for cars in general is very high. And until that comes down, prices are going to be high, and I'm not willing to pay a premium for nothing. Well, nothing more anyway. So, until next time, leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, turn on post notifications, do what you guys do best, and peace out until next time.